Hello Internet, welcome back to Tromsø Twilight, the channel where I, Vincent, talk to you, the universe, about books, movies, music I enjoy, find interesting, or a combination of the two. I was asked by a friend of the channel, Hannah, to see Bugonia because she wanted to talk to me about it. I was also trolled on one of my videos, the one about One Battle After Another, where some random wrote, "This film was trash, go and see Bugonia." So, big up to Hannah and hello to that troll. This movie, directed by the Greek director Yorgos Lanthimos, to me, he's kind of like the inheritor of Lars von Trier's position in the film universe. Like, he makes quite off-kilter, creative, strange movies that in many ways should be unlikable, but that somehow gain a large audience. I'll come back to Von Trier towards the end. This movie was actually a remake of a Korean movie, Save the Green Planet. I've heard that's good. I haven't seen it, so you have to forgive me. I don't really know what the overlap is between the two films. I'm going to talk about the key relationships in the film, which is kind of what I think is most interesting about it, and then I'm going to talk about the ending and how I feel about that. Don't watch the part about the ending if you haven't seen the film. So it's no secret to watchers of this channel or anybody who knows me personally that I think Emma Stone is probably the best actress living. She's incredible in my opinion. Lanthimos is super lucky to have her in his films. I think that she really elevates them, but he also brings something out of her. Her performance in this film was amazing. She is playing a CEO, a kind of steely, smart, ruthless CEO of some mega corporation. And at some point, that mega corporation have been working on a sort of opioid replacement therapy. And a guy called Teddy's mother has been injured by this experimental therapy and in a coma since he was a kid. He lives with his autistic cousin, Don, whose family also seem to have been impacted by this corporation. Now, the main thrust of the film is the relationship between Teddy and Michelle. That's Jesse Plemons playing Teddy, Emma Stone playing Michelle, and their relationship, and also between Teddy, played by Jesse Plemons, and Don, played by Aidan Delbis, these two cousins. Something really interesting is happening in this film because Teddy has a kind of delusion or a delusional system where he believes that aliens have taken over the planet. It's some sort of kind of post David Icke internet rabbit hole theory that we are all enslaved to extraterrestrials. And he believes that Emma Stone has a direct line to the emperor of these extraterrestrials and that everything is coming to a head very soon at the lunar eclipse. So he and Don kidnap her together in order to try to intervene in this coming alien apocalypse. What's fascinating is that as the film goes on, you kind of realize that Don has never believed this. He is humoring Teddy because Teddy is the only person in his life. Because he's in some ways neurodivergent, it's not clear if he's cognitively impaired or if it's just autism. I know that the actor who played him, Delbis, is autistic himself. So his way of relating to Teddy is to kind of just follow Teddy's actions, plans, and behaviors as if it were a type of game. There are two really tragic examples of this in the film. One is when Teddy and Don are sitting at the table, and Don says to Teddy, "I wish I could change all those things that happened to you." And Teddy says, "This isn't about that. It's about aliens taking over the world." You kind of realize that Don knows that it's really about Teddy trying to find a channel for all of his childhood pain, abandonment, abuse. But he can't have that conversation directly with Teddy. Another is the only scene where Don and Michelle really interact, when Don is kind of telling Michelle that he doesn't really believe any of it, that it's all part of a game, but she doesn't understand that until the end of the conversation. So the other key relationship is between Michelle and Teddy. And this is like a very interesting battle of wills that I've never really seen on screen before. Maybe I would have if I'd seen Save the Green Planet, but it's really interesting to see how Emma Stone's character, Michelle, underestimates Teddy initially, thinking he's basically an idiot and clearly mentally ill, and tries to just humor him to get out of the situation. This doesn't work. She tries to threaten him, she tries to bribe him. None of this works either. And so she slowly attempts to kind of find her way into his delusional system in order that she can start to influence it from the inside. She's fortunate in this because when he tries to electrocute her and she doesn't die, he starts to realize how robust and powerful she is. And so their relationship kind of escalates. It becomes more and more complex. And at a certain point, the whole thing is between Michelle and Teddy, and Don has kind of fallen out of the situation. He's become more of just an observer. To me, this movie works so well, partly because the dynamic between these three is so well written and so well executed, both in the acting and the direction. It reminds me of an excellent play. You know, they're stuck in this house, the three of them, and the dynamic is always shifting. You have Michelle trying to always manipulate or influence Teddy in some way. You have Teddy trying to convince her that he really is this kind of superhuman who has worked out the whole alien plan, and that she needs to realize how important he actually is. So it's kind of playing two types of narcissistic madness off of each other. So let's talk about the ending of the film. If you haven't seen it, don't watch this part. Everything escalates up until the point that Michelle manages to trick Teddy to go into a cupboard in her workplace, and he's strapped up with a bomb, and it explodes while he's in the cupboard, and his head comes flying out and lands by her. And then there are really two ways to interpret the rest of the film. Either she's worked so hard to enter his delusional system that at the end of the film you see her kind of continuing his fantasy where she is now the empress of aliens and she is so powerful that she can end life on Earth. Or she actually was an alien the entire time, and her confusion and attempts to manipulate him and all of her desperation have really been an extremely well executed front on her part. She was always an alien pretending to be a human being. So I think this film is really interesting to read as a kind of sister film or a comparison film with Eddington, Ari Aster's 2025 film, because both films are about a world where people feel a complete helplessness. They're being exploited, patronized, manipulated, and oppressed by major multinational corporations that are so removed from human beings that they might as well be extraterrestrial aliens. And in this context, people go down these rabbit holes of conspiracy theories about cults, about aliens, about Pizzagate, whatever it might be. And both films, at a certain point towards the last third, flip so that they are no longer satirizing this, but they actually present a world where this is occurring. So you might say that the third way of reading the end of Bugonia is not that Michelle has become psychotic or she was always an alien, but that the film itself has slipped into another world. It's slipped from a world where Teddy is a disturbed serial killer into a world, a universe where humans really are oppressed by aliens. The last thing to say is that stylistically, the ending of the film is very interesting. The alien spaceship is quite unique looking. The way that the design is done, the costumes are done, it's a kind of throwback to 70s sci-fi, I feel, but the use of color is very striking. And then there are these long tableaus of different parts of the world after all human life has died, with people just lying around in lots of different situations, this kind of like extinction fantasy that Lanthimos has at the end of the film reminded me greatly of Lars von Trier. this last section, it looks like Von Trier. The use of music is like Von Trier. It reminds me greatly of the most recent Lars von Trier film, The House That Jack Built, which is also about a serial killer, uh, which also has many images of corpses and which also slips into another existential level or dimension at the end, where Virgil is taking Jack to hell through all these different landscapes. That's basically all I have to say about Bugonia, apart from to say that I think film historians, when they look back at 2025, are going to start talking about how established, somewhat experimental male directors started making satirical films which slipped into the world they were satirizing. It happens in Paul Thomas Anderson's film, it happens in Ari Aster's film, and it happens in this film. It's a trope. It's like a new trope that everybody's doing in 2025 that must say something about our relationship to reality, truth, the world, the internet. And I'm not quite articulate enough, or I don't understand it well enough to really express exactly what it is yet, but I see it happening repeatedly, and I imagine probably when we go to the film festivals, we're going to see more of it. Okay, thanks for listening. Nice to spend some time with you. I'm going to be coming back soon with a couple of discussions of some pretty interesting books. Lots of love. Take care for now.